Aloha, folks. Sorry I'm late. How's everyone doing today?
Morning.
Turn up my volume. All right, can you folks hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent. Royce, are we ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Joint Committee for the Enhanced 911 Board. Combined meeting. It is April 11th, 9 a.m. Public testimony when taken on all agenda items as those items occur during the meeting. Can we get a roll call, Royce?
Starting off, Francis is here. Nani is not here today. Thalia is not here today. Steven is on. Franny Chung. Franny, you here today? Diana Chun. Stacy Domingo.
Present.
Thank you. Eddie is on. I saw him on. Robert Fujitake.
I'm here.
Thank you. Liz is here today. Vern Hara. Alex Hacker. G Suk is here today. Wayne Hirasa. John Holland. David Jones. Stella is here today. Kalani is not here today. Matt is on. Todd is also here. Todd, are you here?
Royce, yeah, here.
Oh, sorry. I see you. Glenn, are you here today?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Franny. I see you. Sean Kuratani.
Sorry, here, Royce, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Vern. I see you. Kurt Logger. Patrick Letty.
Here.
Kimberly Lee. Alon Leong.
Here.
Thank you. Shelby Lewis. Rebecca is here. Reed is not here today. David Miyazaki. Lauren Okamura. Greg Okamoto is not here. Frank Pace. Gary Poolford. Ariel Ramos.
Present. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you. Darren Rose.
I'm here.
Thank you. Dave Lynn is here today. Tony Ramirez is here today. Natasha Reese.
I'm here.
Thank you. Jeff Reeve.
Jeff is here.
Thank you. Calvin is here. Calvin Sung. Corey is here. Lavina, are you here today?
Yep, here. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Valerie Taylor. Here. Kennison, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Royce.
Thank you. Kazuo Todd. Keola is not here. Tony Velasco.
I'm here, Royce. Thanks.
Thank you. Ruth Chappelle.
Ruth is not here today. I'm in her place. This is Megan Riley.
Okay, thank you. Miranda and Barbara Wynn. Both not here. Julie Hemkes. All right, give me 1 second, guys.
Adam Rice, this is Buck Giles. I'm sitting in for ocean safety.
Oh, got it. Thanks, Buck.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a quorum for all 3 committees, Corey.
Okay, great. Thank you, Royce. If we could all just take a moment to review the March meeting minutes, we'll be looking for approval.
Hey, Corey, it's Tony. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Tony. Can I get a second?
This is Rebecca. I'll make the motion to second.
Thank you, Rebecca. All those in favor of approving the March meeting minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Meeting minutes are approved. Moving on to committee updates by committee chairs, starting with the Communications Committee. Daylin, do you have any updates for us?
Good morning, sir. Yes, I do. We were doing the Intrado upgrade, and on March 19th, it was decided that we would hold off on any progress on the solution. We weren't making much progress in the areas of transfer of calls or the information on the mapping. It was not dropping correctly, or it was taking between 3 to 20 seconds for the location information to drop on the map. So in the best interest of my people, that I still had manpower, we decided to push back on the upgrade. And I do have Hawaiian Tel on that's here at this time, if anyone has any questions for them regarding that. Right now we're in limbo. They're still trying to figure out what's going on. We haven't made much progress, I believe, but I think either Glenn or Francis can answer that.
Yes, you're correct,
Glenn?
Davelin. Yeah. Thanks for that, Davelin. So yes, correct. Exactly what you just said. We continue to work with Intrado to find solutions on those 2 issues and stuff. And you have our word or commitment that only after we get these resolved will we then have a discussion around moving back to Kihei in that environment, the Viper 7 environment. So thanks.
And Glenn, the 2 issues being the calls not transferring and the information not populating, is that what you mean by the 2 issues, or?
Yeah, the 2 known issues. The 2 known issues are the internal admin transfers are failing. Those are sort of like a warm transfer call. And the second thing is the plotting of landline and or VoIP calls consistently in the new SCC mapping environment. And so we have Intrado engineers actively engaged and escalated through Intrado channels to get these issues both resolved.
Okay, and do you guys have any ETAs or anything like that from Intrado, or?
No, I wish we could say it was yesterday, but no, this is a daily thing right now for us. Yeah. So in fact, our techs were there yesterday trying to test a fix, and that did not. So it wasn't successful.
Okay, but this is something he's working on regularly, like
yes.
daily. It's a top priority.
Yes, correct.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Glenn. Thank you, Davelin. We also had an agenda item for the Intrado hybrid solution, like an update for the overall progress. So that's like the implementation. So Glenn and Francis, did you have any higher level updates in terms of like forecasts. Obviously, this is a gating item that will slow down the launch and the rollout for the rest of the islands. But assuming this is resolved in weeks, are you guys prepared to speak to the longer term, like the rest of 2024?
Yeah,
gonna start.
I can give you. I have something I can present. I'm hoping.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on now or later in the agenda. Sorry, my computer's been acting up, and I've been trying to shut down things before I reboot.
Got it. If you need to reboot, we could.
I think I'm good right now. If I'm on the agenda now, I can share that. If not, I can wait. I didn't know where.
That would be perfect. Actually, now is when we have you guys slated. So if you could try to share, that'd be awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Francis.
So, I'm gonna try to share this deck. Can you guys see? You see this?
Yes, sir. We got it.
Okay. All right. So thanks, Corey, for that intro. So I was asked to kind of give the board and everyone here an update on where we are from a perspective of HT, our roadmap for NG 911. So currently, when you talk about NG 911, there are a couple core components that are needed. The EZNet, which we have already with our HT MPLS network. The next gen core services, that in itself is pending primarily in discussions with Intrado. There's the customer premise equipment. So this is the CPE, this is the Viper 7 upgrade that we're going through right now with Maui with a little bit of a complication. So that's work in progress. And then on NG 911, there's the GIS data because the change is from the ALI-ANI approach to more GIS, which provides boundaries, policies, and rules. And I have a kind of a check mark and an in progress there because in our conversations with Intrado and the work that I think Akimeka has done on the GIS data, I think the data is there. I think we're ahead in terms of, the GIS data for Hawaii is pretty solid. The work in progress is how do we start to integrate that into an NG 911 solution. A lot of that still has to be discussed and worked out. Our roadmap, over the next several years, this year, we obviously hope to be well ahead of the schedule. But right now, we're focused on doing the CPE upgrade to Viper 7. The platform is I3 compliant. We are also modifying our A911 call routing to support Viper 7, and I'll talk a little bit more about that this year. And then SCC mapping, which is part of the Viper 7 upgrade, we're moving that to kind of a cloud transition. Next year, our plan is to upgrade the 911 after we're finishing all the CPE upgrades. Our plan is to focus on the 911 call routing to make it I3 compliant. So there are some components that will be upgraded in our conversation with Intrado, that components here in Hawaii. That will put us into what I would say a cloud call processing environment. It's a little bit of a hybrid environment. You might have heard that term from Intrado, where we are sending information, GIS location routing is going to the mainland and coming back here. All the call processing is going to be handled in state. So if we ever lost, worst case scenario, cloud connectivity, the calls would still be processed within the state. Part of our conversation with Intrado is obviously the service level agreements on the call routing. And then we also look at one of the big components in an NG 911 ecosystem is what we will call SIP interconnections with OSPs or outside service providers. That would be like Verizon Wireless, T-Mobile, AT&T. Today, our interconnections are legacy CAMA TDM trunks. We really want to move forward with the SIP interconnection. So those we see happening next year. And then by 2026, our vision is that the SIP interconnections to the network, to the 911 network, would be completed, and then we would also then moving into other NG 911 enhancements beyond just call taking and call routing. So that's kind of a roadmap. Any questions? Okay. All right. So let me just kind of go over the A911 routing today. We're on an older version of code base than mainland systems. That's some conversations we've had with Intrado about moving to a newer release and newer setup. Intrado has moved. I think most of everyone knows a lot of the providers have moved to a cloud-based solution on the mainland. Hawaii would need to as well for our A911 routing. As I mentioned, the hybrid solution includes moving the call routing to the cloud, but the voice would stay on island or in state here in Hawaii. All right, and so this is kind of a high-level view of our network. The Viper 7 upgrade, everything you see in the left in that box, those are the call handling equipment. Their equipment here in secured locations in Hawaiian Telcom, and then there's equipment in each of the PSAPs. And then to the right of it is, a lot of the network equipment that is part of the call routing, or when the call comes in, getting it to the call handling equipment. And some of that, again, will be going back to the mainland, especially when you talk about GIS information or location-based information. All right.
And so that the cloud call routing, when you say call routing, do you mean like the SIP signaling to set up the call would be in the cloud, and then the actual voice packet? Sorry.
No, the calls, the actual call will stay in state,
Okay.
because the call lands on our tandem and then gets routed to the A911 platform, the SBCs. What my understanding of what goes is part of the 911 call delivery is that GIS information will come in from the cloud to complete and provide all the what I would say I3 compliant information, to complete, to kind of land on the Viper 7. So, when you talk about voice itself, right, the key thing there, if we ever lost connection to the cloud, the voice connection, the SIP interconnect or the actual voice would stay on island, and then we would deliver that to the Viper. The routing information at that point would be lost. Some of the information about where to route the call would default back to what I would say kind of a legacy approach of using our trunks. So for Hawaii, it's pretty straightforward in terms of the PSAPs being on each island. We know from our switching network where to send the call, where to send the call to the PSAP. Those kinds of default routings would occur. Some information that we might have in NG 911 may not be provided because of that loss to the cloud, but the calls would make it. Let's say, let me cover, talking through a lot of the points here. Some of the new release that, to the cloud, to A911 itself is, the I3 routing. The A911 solution will have what we call RTT, or real-time text capable capabilities. So if you think about, and I'm not the true expert on here, but if you think about how people text message today, they type in something and they hit send, and the text message is sent. And then someone replies with the text message, they type it in and they hit send. RTT, and I'll look at our wireless carriers friends to keep me honest, is as you type your text message, the characters will show up on the screen. That's my understanding of real-time texting, is that there is no type the message and send. It's I'm typing, you'll see all my, I would not like it because you'd see all my spelling errors, as I type. So that's real-time text. There's some additional what we call telephone DDoS. That's always, a concern from a security is telephone DDoS type of scenarios where people are just calling and hammering the 911 system with fake calls. And so there's some TDoS capabilities in there as well. All right. And then future design plans that we've talked with Intrado on is geodiversity. I'm not going to, say out loud where we're putting the geodiverse equipment, but today, our equipment is in a secured Hawaiian Telecom location, and we're working to actually put that in another location as well, so that if something happens to the building, worst case connectivity, type of scenario, we have another location that we would operate the host and the equipment out of in the state. So that's our game plan, is to kind of build more resiliency into the network around the 911 network here in Hawaii. Okay, one of the questions was cost, right? And I know that's a big thing with when we talked with the consultant. So for those of you, I think most of you know Hawaiian Telecom, our cost recovery for the 911 system is really in two tariffs. We have Section 9 and Section 10 of the tariff that does wireline and wireless recovery. Wireline is our 27 cents to our wireline subscribers. And then on the wireless recovery, that's on a per seat basis that we have in the tariff. We know the tariff, when we look at it, is 10 years old. We feel the verbiage does need to be revised for technological advances, i.e., I3 and the EZINet. So we're looking at, updating that verbiage. We haven't started the process yet, but internally we've had conversations about modifying and updating the verbiage. From our perspective right now, we are continuing to review the cost recovery model to see if it's sufficient to handle all the upgrades. So, our commercial agreements and partnership with Intrado right now, we don't see any update to that cost recovery model. But as things change, we consistently review that. And, at the appropriate time, we would then have to go back in and make changes. But right now, I think, it's looking okay. So from that perspective, we don't see any kind of, increase or modification to the current cost recovery model. All right. Any questions on the roadmap and what I've talked about?
Hey, Francis, this is Eddie.
Hey, Eddie.
So on this slide, the second point, the tariff, do you foresee non-tariff consoles costs going up if we're not increased?
Non-tariff items, there might be. One of the big, it really depends, because again, the tariff is written to deliver the calls. A lot of the enhancements that we're seeing are driven more on the wireless side. And so, those might be more of the costs that are not covered by the tariff that we may, just do the normal pass the costs on to you, pass to the PSAPs for that capability. One of the areas that I was concerned about was, connectivity to the PSAPs. Today, we provide, I would say a bandwidth, a circuit that has certain bandwidth. And one of the questions I had was, does that bandwidth have to increase over time, which, would cost more money to the PSAPs? The feedback I'm getting is that that bandwidth doesn't really significantly change until video comes into play. Meaning when, the capability to deliver video during a 911 call would be the significant bump in bandwidth. Other than that, most of the bandwidth requirements that Intrado has seen and that, in other deployments is, sufficient. So but there might be other capabilities that y'all want that, would have to integrate into the platform. There's a lot of other, I guess, players in the 911 industry that we see that, want to add on capabilities for a fee. And so sometimes that might drive some non-tariff costs.
Understand.
Does that answer your question? Yeah.
So a lot of the secondary sites will see an increase then.
We're hoping not. I mean, from a perspective of the seat cost, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the Viper terminals.
Yeah. Right now, if we don't have to update the tariff, no. They would stay the same amount. It's just based on the number of seats.
Okay.
That you put out there.
And I just had another question on the roadmap. On when it's appropriate, will Hawaiian Telcom be sending the customer side minimum requirements for the upgrade, as far as upgrading hardware, testing, bandwidth, things like that?
Yeah, we have already started to do that for all the sites. And then, Maui was the first one. So once we're complete with Maui and we're satisfied with the deployment and the capabilities, we will work then with each of the sites for the actual Viper deployment. The call routing is more back behind the scenes on our side. The real big impact to the PSAPs themselves are the Viper 7. So Glenn and Efren, along with Intrado, are kind of leading those conversations with each of the PSAPs. So our focus has been on Maui, getting Maui up and running. And then once we're completed with Maui, both their alternate Kihei site and their main site in Wailuku, along with Molokai, then we'll start to reach out to each of the other sites in preparation for that.
Okay, and then the vision is all the upgrades will be meet requirements for let's say 5 years down the road. So there's no end of life to the equipment in a short time span.
Well, no, I mean, right now, so the way we see it is that I don't think it all depends on what we put on it, but the equipment has been sized, for 7 years or longer, at least at the call handling side. But there is always equipment refresh. That's the big thing as you start to move into, the next generation of capabilities. A lot of it is server based. We see in talking to Intrado, and we see it in our network as well, that after 5 to 7 years, there's a hardware refresh requirement. So I don't think we're going to get around that. I don't think hardware is one time. I think there'll always be a refresh. Part of that refresh is covered under the the cost recovery model that we have. And I can't, with inflation, I can't forecast it, but I do see eventually, there'll be over time just hardware refreshes. PCs get old, compute power gets old, kind of thing.
Got it. I fully understand. Thank you, Francis.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, this is Stephen with City and County. Yeah. Hi, Francis. In regards to the roadmap, so it looks like the upgrade to the Viper 7, so that's like the first thing that's going to be happening. So then for each, so I guess is it happening in parallel with other counties? Or once Maui gets, I guess, let me step back. So once Maui gets done, then are we going to be doing it in parallel, or is it going to be done in serial for each county?
No, we don't have enough resources, I don't think, internally for us to do any kind of parallel deployment. So our schedule has always been with Intrado, serial in deployment, and pretty quick in the turn up. Because the nice thing is that and I've seen some of the training is that it's very similar to the current Viper 5. It's not a big lift, so the training is pretty straightforward. But no, we do see more serial. I'm not too sure I want to do a parallel. We want to make sure that the calls are being taken and we don't, find anything else, right? And again, I think Maui, the first one, and I appreciate Davelyn and her team being very flexible with us. We always expected the first 2 sites to probably do shakeout more than what anything and find some problems hopefully, we get to the 3rd site, it'll be pretty cookie cutter in terms of all the problems being solved, right? It's kind of unique in what we're seeing on Maui actually with deployment. But yeah, our plan is more serial in nature. Even within the county PSAP, the backup site and the primary sites, those are done in serial fashion.
Okay. And just one other, I just want to clarify in regards to the, I guess there was another slide that showed like the cloud and in particular the, I guess the call processing. So the cloud portion you said is primarily would be the GIS data. If we did lose the cloud, it's the GIS data that we would be losing.
Yeah, that would be one of the things that Intrado says we lose is some of that GIS data that they have. We're trying to figure out, are there other opportunities for us to preserve that? And the GIS data is really more for the wireless caller, right? It's that, today it's phase 1, phase 2. Tomorrow it's the device-based hybrid, where the device is actually sending that information. And that information is coming from, the kind of cloud-based processing.
Okay, thank you.
Francis, this is Tony. Can I got a couple questions.
Yep.
Or clarifications. So earlier you made mention of CPE versus call handling. So just if you wouldn't mind clarifying, because in my mind, the call handling equipment is the piece of equipment that's being provided by Hawaiian Telecom that hangs off the infrastructure, kind of like the Viper system. That's call handling equipment. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so you made mention earlier about CPE. In my mind, CPE is customer premise equipment. That's the PSAP's equipment that they use to dispatch responders to the 911 caller. That means CPE equipment is the CAD system, the MDTs, the AVL systems, or the vehicle location system, anything that the PSAP uses to respond to the 911 call. Is that the same that you have?
Yeah, I think just for my, and maybe just semantics, I agree with you, Tony. I mean, I think when I say CPE, I actually am saying any specific piece of equipment that's at the customer prem. And so we do have the workstations. From my view, the workstations are the CPE, but to your point, that extends to all the other CPE that is supporting the PSAP. So I agree with you.
Okay, no, that's, I just, for the PSAP's perspective, for the PSAP, so that they can, we can wrap our arms around the definitions.
Yes, I totally agree.
Okay, and then on, this is kind of like just to talk to Mr. Courtney's talking about the cloud. So in Next Generation 911, it's basically following the same model as E911, in that what you refer to as call routing is now changing to location-based routing, which is going to be based on the location, and that's what they need the GIS information for. Okay, so in the state of Hawaii, we currently are capable of location-based routing on wireless and text to 911 calls currently right now. In fact, I know we're testing with Verizon, and we've already passed the testing, the FCC testing with T-Mobile. And the way that the next gen system is supposed to work, we're not exchanging GIS information. So I just want to let people know we're not going to see layers moving from infrastructure to the equipment at the PSAP. However, the PIDAFlow information is kind of like the replacement of ALI. So it's still going to be an information file that's going to have the routing rules and it's going to have the location information, and it's going to be delivered in HTML format. So Ellie is basically moving from a 10-line information data, ASCII, not ASCII, but the Annie-Ellie information is basically going from a analog kind of system, a 10-line information system, into like a 3-page HTML file, which is going to be much more accurate in the future. So basically, the two parts of the 911 call are still going to be the same. Part one is going to be the call. When the caller makes the call, the communication service providers still have to get the call to the 911 center, which is part one of the call. Correct. Part two is still going to be the 911 resources being dispatched to the 911 caller, which is dispatch and response operations. So that part's staying the same. The only difference is we're moving from a call routing format into a location-based routing format. And as you mentioned, and you're 100% correct, the cloud is going to reach back to these people where the location database, where they actually have the GIS information, and the system's going to pull that HTML data from the GIS and then send that information file to the PSAP. And then it's going to display on the maps and everything at the PSAP itself, but there won't be an exchange of GIS data.
Yeah,
so,
you're correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that for the PSAP so that they understood it's a lot of things are not changing. It's just getting faster and more accurate because we're leaving an analog or digital network and going to an IP network, which means the capability for a lot more data.
Yeah.
And the question,
yes.
Yeah, if you could clarify, and this is going back to the tariff information. The question that was originally asked was, is Hawaiian Telcom following the cost model per FCC 02-56, which was the reconsideration in the King County rule, which said that the demarcation point for cost recovery was the selective router. So the wireless calls, the cost recovery is actually assigned to the wireless communication service provider. They have to recover their own costs, and that's why it's on their bill to their clients. So the cost recovery was the demarcation point for the cost recovery was supposed to be the selective router, and then the 911 service provider was supposed to add the cost for the trunking to the PSAPs, and the PSAPs were going to have to pay for that, and also for any upgrades to the selective router and the routing information. So the question was, is Hawaiian Telcom following the cost recovery assignment per the FCC regulations? And I think that's the question. We understand that there's a Chapter 9 and a Chapter 10 to the tariff. And we understand the cost methodology for Chapter 9 because that's actually in the PUC guidelines. But even in the state law, it refers back for wireless recovery, and it refers back to Chapter 138, the wireless law. So I guess the question that's been asked and what the PSAPs are waiting for is that cost recovery following the guidance of the FCC mandate on cost recovery for wireless calls? So maybe that's something you can ask your regulatory section to clarify, please.
Yeah, from our perspective, we are. Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay. No, that's it. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that additional info, Tony. All right, any other questions?
That was a really good discussion. Thank you,
Okay.
Francis. Thanks for the good questions, Eddie, and thanks for the additional info, Tony. So Eddie talked about the non-tariff costs. So just to make sure everybody's on the same page, including myself. I assume we're mostly talking about like in our strategic budget plan, the communications for like the Viper today are like about 3.7 million per year. That's the cost that Eddie's referring to, right? And how that's expected to change over the next 2, 3, 4, or 5 years. That would be if we expect it. It sounds like right now we don't know, and we're not expecting that to change dramatically. But if there's any indication that it's going to change, figuring that out throughout this year would be really useful for us, because we also have this $2 million set aside for next gen. So we have this buffer, but we need to, because we're not going to be, separating out and having our own separate line items for next gen 911 now, it sounds like we need to make sure those costs for the existing communications and the existing maintenance, those line items might need some of this $2 million to buffer them, but we don't know what those are yet and how they're going to change. So I think the good news is it's not going to change a lot. We probably don't need that full amount, but we do have it, and it's having it out there, having the extra money in the coffers is kind of a risk to us, as we've seen in the past. So we just need to, so Royce has done a great job being transparent, getting our budget looking good, explaining that to legislators, all that type of stuff. But I do think in the next year, figuring out how to get that $2 million either spread throughout the rest of the budget in a logical fashion is probably the right thing to do. So just throwing that out there. Any questions?
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a quick question. This is Kennison. So is state procurement and all the procurement entities okay with what we're doing? That's the main thing. We don't want somebody to come back later and say, hey, this thing was improper. You guys are already somehow getting a next gen system, but you didn't. As long as we're in the parameters, if we're in the clear, like they're good with how we do it, then that's good, because this really would be the most simple way. But we don't want somebody to come back later on and say, hey, that was a next gen 911 upgrade that should have had an RFP, should have gone out to bid. So I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing.
I believe, we kind of talked about that once or twice, and I believe Stella said that this path is fine to take to transition.
Well,
go ahead.
Did procurement approve it? That's
no.
I
think
go ahead.
the idea was that I think one of the, like, whichever county goes first, then they create kind of like a cooperative procurement project so that the other counties can jump on. But it needs to be done, and I think I'm not exactly sure whether you folks have been in touch, the counties have been in touch with SPO. But it's going to be at the county level that they talk with SPO about doing a cooperative purchasing kind of situation or agreement.
Well, there's no equipment to procure, right?
Yeah, see, and that's the thing. And if there was going to be like a goods and services type procurement, then in order to have the same companies do all of the procurement for each of the, to do all of the goods and services for each of the counties, then it would have to be done through like a cooperative purchasing procurement. But I don't know. To me, it's like, it's not, I don't think it's that.
The board's not incurring, the PSAPs and the board are not incurring a large procurement cost right now. This is just like an upgrade to the existing system that's an ongoing transition. As Francis kind of highlighted, half of the transition is already done. We have some I3 compliance already. Like we're moving down this path, and it's piecemeal, and there isn't one thing. It's not like there's a box that you buy. It's the next gen box that costs $2 million. Like that's just not the way it works.
Right.
These are like continuous upgrades to networks, and these have been going on all along in different ways. You know, we added text to 911 capability. You know, we didn't go to procurement for that. We just added it as an additional service. So the costs can go up a little bit, but we're not changing out the system wholesale. A lot of the transport facilities are still the same. It's all and I think the fact that this is all public, and this is the logical way to do it. I think procurement would be involved if there was a big expenditure that we had to do, but it sounds like this is going to be more business as usual, and there may be some costs, but they're going to be incremental, and they're not going to be like all one big outlay, if that makes sense.
Yes. So it's kind of more like a maintenance,
right?
Which includes the upgrades. And so, yeah, that's why I'm thinking that this is not what was being contemplated earlier about doing a cooperative purchasing.
Yeah, sorry. Can I chime in? This is Sean Bertani, Chief Sean. So the technical group met, right? And that cooperative agreement was that if we were to piecemeal everything and have the PSAPs choose what EZNet and what call routing or and kind of break these costs out going to NG911, then the PSAPs would have had to come together and kind of do a cooperative agreement. But like as we decided as a group, we were gonna have Hawaiian Tel kind of take the reins and, like Corey said, kind of like do an upgrade, since they were pretty much had the road path already to NG911, which would have made it easier for all the PSAPs anyway. So that's the decision that the group was tasked of and made that decision a few months ago.
Right. I think the fact that this is a transition that's happening in the industry. So Intrato's the existing vendor for Hawaiian Telcom. Hawaiian Telcom's the existing provider for the PSAPs. They have to upgrade this stuff just because technology is changing. So I think if Hawaiian Tel were like switching to a different vendor, I think if we were all switching everything out and there was going to be $5-10 million bills coming our way, procurement would be a big deal. But this is kind of just like, we're just going from 3G to 4G. We're going from 4G to 5G. This is just, the next step in this technology. And because we've chosen to stick with our existing providers, there's not going to be these huge costs that involve procurement at all. We're just going to walk down the path of upgrading the system. And so anyways, any questions?
That's awesome. That is awesome. I'm just saying somebody needs to get the approval, and somebody that gets the stamp of approval on it, just do that. Because a lot of times you think you're doing everything correctly until you actually go to purchasing and they say, no, you got to go out and you got to go get a bid, or you got to do something sole source.
Sure.
Just be prudent. I mean, I agree. That's the best move. That's the easiest way and the most economic way. But just make sure somebody put their name on the line and say, oh yeah, we approve what everybody in the state is doing.
Right. Okay. So I think for that, we really need, so Hawtel's telling us now there is no big bill coming for all this new routers or what, like that's what I'm heering. But if there is going to be that, then we need that approval. We need that procurement. Right now, we're planning to pay Hawtel basically what we're paying them today. So we don't need to ask procurement about that because nothing's changing, right? So if there is unexpected large costs that involve procurement with this, we definitely need to get that approval. I guess what I'm saying now is if the costs stay relatively the same as we transition through here, procurement, there's nothing for us to ask them as a board that I can see, because there's nothing to purchase. It's just our existing services are just being upgraded, but it's the same service. It still does the same thing. There's no new contract. There's nobody's signing anything. We're just progressing along with normal upgrades to technology, I guess.
When we did that in the past, we thought that was a thing, but But that's what they actually paused, and they made us look at whether somebody else could provide the services. So, and we were staying with Hawaii Tel. We all wanted to stay with Hawaii Tel, but because there was going to be a transition for the type of equipment, we got questioned. So that's all I'm saying.
If it helps, Kennison, this is part of an ongoing transition with the technology. And this is why Stella and Rebecca and Royce have been working on the new legislation as well, was to remove the restrictions within the statute. So that's part of what this legislative action that's going through right now is about, is to remove restrictions from the current statute to allow for these technology changes. Because it's not really, we're not buying, how do I say that? We're not really buying a new system. We're just upgrading the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
and I'm gonna take off my HT hat and put on my board hat.
Thanks.
And say that, I see this like anything. It's a platform. The provider Hawaiian Telcom is upgrading the platform. It is new, and we know. I think there are going to be capabilities on this platform through NG 911 and I3, right? That will provide certain capabilities to the PSAPs that they want to probably buy, right? I mean, we're on the forefront. Rapid Deploy is a good example, right? Where they have stuff that can be added on to the platform. Those are not part of the tariff. What the tariff covers to deliver the 911 call. Those are value added. We use the term in the industry, value added products, right? On top of it, that I think, to Kenneth's point, may require a procurement, may be requiring a discussion that, if all the PSAPs are going to purchase it, in the counties, is it something that the board wants to get for all the PSAPs versus each of the counties purchasing it on their own, right? And add those value
right
added items onto the platform, there are costs to a provider like Hawaii Telcom that says, well, wait a minute, that's going to cost us a lot more money. So, here's what the cost is, right? And kind of looking at not only just buying the added value widget, but it's what else does it do to the network in its whole, right? In terms of upgrades, et cetera, and changes that are beyond what's covered in the tariff. So I think we all have to be aware of that as that platform evolves,
I think if you don't mind,
when we added text to 911, so
yeah,
did we do any procurement when we added that service, which isn't that expensive? Did we? I don't recall going out to procurement when it's only $8,000 a year or something. But did we go to procurement for that?
I don't know.
Does anybody recall? I don't think we did.
If this helps out, Corey, maybe if we just kind of remember and just reduce this to the basic of what the statute says, we're not changing the technical functionality of the system. We're still call routing and delivering the call to the PSAP, and the PSAPs are still sending dispatch and response or performing dispatch and response functions to get to the 911 caller. So the technical functionality of the service that's being provided for 911 is not changing.
Yep.
Just the platform, as Francis says.
Yeah, I think Kennison and Francis both make great points that once the platform, the basic next gen 911 is elevated, now there will be more capabilities. Some of those will have costs, and some of those might need to go through procurement if the PSAPs are like, oh, we definitely want that feature, we want that feature. I think that makes sense at that time, because there's when the dollars come in. If we're not paying a company more money, procurement really doesn't come into it in my mind. But that is a possibility down the road that's going to be enabled by the uplifting of this system. That there could be new services and new features that we could buy, but we're not buying them now. So I don't think we need to go to procurement now, because there's nothing. We're not spending any money. We're not making a decision to spend more money with Hotel. We're just continuing to spend money with Autel, the same amount as today.
I had a question. So like, what if
the same services? For the same services,
right?
Just on a
Yep,
higher
because nothing's
price point.
changing yet. If we do add services, then yeah, maybe procurement would come into play because costs are going up, services are going up. Let's make sure we're not, giving everything to all one company and following all the rules. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
I had a question, but like, what if the services or platform that we buy, and the apps are proprietary to that platform? So, like, going out and procuring something similar might be hard because now it's not, we can't get it on that system. We have to go outside, or vice versa, or the system itself isn't providing that service. Like, I don't know, will there be difficulties in the future?
I think that would probably be like a sole source type procurement,
Yeah.
because then you would need to show that there is really only one company that is able to provide these specific compatible services.
I agree.
Like if Intrado only works with one service that we want to add, and maybe there's 3 service providers for this service in the country, but Intrado is only compatible with one of them, we would have to go through the procurement hoops and explain those.
So it would still be okay then. Okay.
Sounds like there's a legal way through that type of situation. Yeah.
Yeah, we were having problems even when we were with Fire to renew the maintenance contracts when they changed pricing, and our procurement, the city procurement, made sure that we jumped through the right hoops to say, and like it was like a no-brainer. We should stay with the people we're already with, but they make you jump to some hoops. So just, as long as everybody's aware of that, it's good. We're doing it the easy way, so that I'm totally for that, and the cheaper way. So.
Yeah, no, Kennison makes a great point. So if Hotel can really help us with an outlook for any costs that are going to go up related to communications, or because when the costs go up and we have to pay you more, that's going to be the time when we would want to talk to procurement and say, hey, this system's being upgraded. It's going to cost more. We don't have the option to just switch to someone else and bid this out very easily, but let's talk to them. But I think Francis saying today, we don't know what those costs are and they're not going up now, which is good news. But yeah, if
but
we will.
Yeah, we would inform you, the board, of those if we see any kind of significant changes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just really keeping a close eye on that and working together, I think we can work through those future potential hurdles. So.
Okay.
I think this was really good discussion. Any more questions or comments?
Hi, this is Todd Omura. So going back to Kennison's comment, so all this is, it's really good discussion and rationale behind decisions about procurement. But the chief procurement officer for the state of Hawaii, and I'm assuming for counties, you have that same role. They're the ones that actually, when it comes to these decisions, issue the approvals. So whether it's a sole source, request for sole source, request for an exemption, but things like arguments like, is something actually being procured? Are the services fundamentally changing? Are there competitors? Would it be impossible, or would it be just extremely expensive and hard? So these are things that, they review and talk about. I have been part of procurement activities where we kind of assume things, and lo and behold, that wasn't the view of the chief procurement officer. So we kind of had to backtrack. So, I guess want to support Kennison, and what he's thinking is that at the very least, we should have these conversations.
So do we think somebody want to make a proposal that I guess what would the proposal be? Because I could tell you 20 things that have changed in this network in the last 10 years, technically, and procurement doesn't know about it. You guys don't know about it. Only the people who operate these technical networks even know what has changed. I mean, we've switched from copper to fiber optics. You know, are there cost changes? Yes, there are cost changes. Nobody went to procurement. So I guess my question is, because Hotel is telling me there's no cost changes and they're upgrading our Viper from 5 to 7. When we went from Viper 3 to Viper 5, did that hit procurement? I doubt it. But so I guess my question is, what's the proposal if we don't have anything to procure? I don't have a bill that's changed from last month.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing, from Todd's explanation is that should we have a conversation with the chief procurement officer, and I think it's in each county, right, Todd?
Yeah, I know. I mean, this is all good stuff, and I think it would be going into the discussions with them and explaining, what's happening.
Is maybe getting their opinion or their input on what would trigger them to say, hey, you need to do this, right? Very different, right, than just how go about it and talking to them ahead of time before anything happens, right? Get their opinion on somewhere, and when they feel no, you do need to do this, right, to be within the guidelines of the county, because it's each county procuring it. Technically, it's each county paying for the PSAPs, right? Going to the board for recovery, basically cost recovery, right?
So we'd propose to invite them to our board meeting, or
if we should have conversations individually with them or figure out a way to do that.
Is there some kind of mechanism that we can, as an alternative to inviting them to the board meeting?
And Francis is correct that the chief procurement officer of each county is the county director of finance. So you've got SPO Bonnie is the chief procurement officer for the state executive branch, but not for the counties. So I think I would suggest that if counties have a concern, perhaps they should be talking with their director of finance.
And is that up to the PSAPs to ask each individual county, or is that up to the board?
Yes. That's not for the board, because the board is not doing the procurement. It's the counties that are operating under current contract with Hohentel. And so they need to talk with their director of finance if I guess the director of finance doesn't see it the same way, that these upgrade and services are already covered and contemplated under the current contract.
Thanks, Della.
Got it.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So should we ask each PSAP to have that conversation?
I think maybe that would be a recommendation to the PSAPs, because each county is different, and I don't know. Each director of finance is different, so if they have a sense that there might be problems, then really they should talk about it now, and explain too that it doesn't look like there's going to be any increase in costs. And also to make the argument that these upgrades are already contemplated under the current contracts.
Got it. And should we make any formal motions or anything to formally recommend that each PSAP inform their county director of finance?
No, I think it's Because it's just a recommendation, it's not necessary to vote on it to do a motion.
Okay.
The PSAPs are all represented in this meeting, and they can discuss with the people they need to discuss with about whether a conversation with the Director of Finance is appropriate at this time.
Okay, great. Maybe when we go through the PSAP readout, we can just make sure each PSAP knows who their county finance director is so that they can have this discussion. Does that seem reasonable?
Sure. I'm pretty sure everybody knows who their county director of finance is. After all, that's, the person who says yay or nay.
Okay, good. Excellent. All right. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Kennison. Thank you, Francis, and thank you, Stella.
Yeah, and
Any
as
other
always, if
discussion?
you have any questions, just give me a holler.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Any other discussion? Questions? All right, thanks for the recommendation, folks. Okay, moving on to the technical committee. Sean.
Thanks, Chair. Before I start with the Access SOS briefing, I see on Section C that the Hawaii Police Department is requesting $275 for pre-conference. Usually it gets vetted from the technical committee. You want me to do that first?
Oh, yes, please.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. So first off, can I get a motion to, or does Hawaii Police Department have any comments? I just believe this is for a pre-conference of a already approved travel request to the NINA conference. But if Hawaii Police Department had any other comments, you can do so now.
Yeah, thanks. This is Rob Fujitaki from Hawaii Police Department. This is for Assistant Chief Andrew Burian, who will be attending the NINA conference with two of our dispatchers. This will not entail any additional costs as far as any, more stays there or anything. It will be during the time that the rest of our staff will be there. So it's just him attending this 8-hour conference on the first day. And it's a $275 cost for him to attend it.
Oh, perfect, sir. Thank you. Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the additional $275 to the Hawaii Police Department for pre-conference course in NINA, June 28th to July 3rd in Kissimmee, Florida? Can I get a motion to approve?
This is Tony. I'll make the motion to approve $275 increase to allow Assistant Chief Burian from Hawaii County Police Department to attend the pre-conference at the NINA conference this year in June, July.
Perfect. Thank you, Tony. Can I get a second, please?
A second. This is Tony. Second.
Thank you, Tony. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries to the finance. Thank you. Okay, so the next section, Access SOS briefing. So Director Royce was contacted by Gabrielle Wong. She's the owner of Access SOS. Access SOS is an app for the hearing speaking impaired used to initiate text to 911 easier. So Royce kind of reached out to me and asked if I could kind of talk to her and vet her app. So I did have a meeting with her, and Access SOS is like an app that collects emergency information from the user and then condenses it into a standardized SMS message. The text is sent from the user's device to emergency services just as a text would normally be sent and received by the user. And the app has no cost. The script that the user sends or gets converted by the app is pretty long and contains information such as the callback number, the lat long of the handset with verification from the user, the type of emergency resources needed, police, fire, ambulance, specific details of the problem such as difficulty breathing or a traffic accident, specific location details, indoors, outdoors, apartment number, and the message automatically pairs the type of language used by the type of language that's on the iPhone. So it sends the message of what type of language the user is speaking. Many of the choices are icons on the phone or on the app itself, where the user just chooses the icons, and the icons get turned into text and get sent to the PSAP. I tried to initiate a test 911 call through the app, but right now it's not available yet in the area, and that's why she called to push, I guess, her app to the state of Hawaii. Again, this is just awareness that these types of apps and maybe long texts may be coming to the primary PSAPs via apps, and just be aware of those. If anybody wants information or wants to contact Gabrielle because you feel that this is a good thing to be pushed out, just let me know and I can have you get in contact with her via email. And that's pretty much it. Any questions? Okay. So that was the end of the Access SOS. I just received a text, or Rebecca, I believe, had to drop off and is going to come back on at around 10:30, I believe, in that text comment or the chat. So I guess we can move to the Finance Committee, Chair, or Chief Eddie.
Yep. Okay, Finance Committee, Eddie.
Hi, good morning. For the month of March, our cash flow analysis, we had a 1,352,000 surcharge collection. As far as interest, we had 122,325. Total receipts for March is $1,122,677. Total disbursements were 257,597, giving us a net receipts for March at $865,080. As far as our net encumbrances or paydowns, we paid out 38,702. Our net cash inflow was $826,378. For our bank analysis, beginning balance at the start of the fiscal year was $37,221,708. Our net bank balance is $41,804,444. Our outstanding encumbrances are $9,024,371, giving us unencumbered cash balance of $32,780,073. Just wanted to mention our interest income looks like it's going to be pretty steady to the end of 2024 based on the current Fed interest rates. No one knows whether they're going to cut interest rates, but watching the news and talking to finance people, they're not seeing a big cut in interest rates. So our interest incomes looks pretty steady for the end of 2024. Any questions on the cash flow analysis? Okay, item 2, a request by Hawaii Police Department requesting $275 for pre-conference course for NANA, June 28th to the 31st in Kissimmee, Florida. Any discussion on by any of the finance committee members? The only thing I wanted to bring up with that request is for Hawaii Police Department, if you can make sure you send, this is going over the travel guidelines for post and pre-conference, that you send a course syllabus with justification for attendance with the estimated cost, which I see is $275. And just to let everybody know, in the notes, that pre or post conference activities such as golf tournaments or the runs, like fun runs or benefit runs, are not reimbursable by the board. And for any post or pre-conference travel, the requests and documents need to be submitted prior to the travel date. If it's submitted afterwards, the board is not approved to reimburse that amount. So please be sure to send us the course syllabus and justification for attendance to Royce. If not, any other discussion? If not, I need a motion to approve the $275 for pre-conference course at NANA for Hawaii Police Department.
Yeah, this is Tony. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Tony. Do we have a second?
Yeah, this is Stephen Courtney. I second.
Thank you, Stephen. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No one opposes. Motion carries. Royce?
Thanks, Eddie. So moving on, we'll move on to the PSAP status updates on recruitment and other personnel issues, starting with Kauai Police Department.
Good morning, this is Sergeant Arrow Ramos. Not much has changed as far as we don't have any new applicants, no trainees at this time. We're still at 10 dispatchers. One is sort of on extended leave and anticipated to be leaving us at the end of this year. Our new PIO has been working really hard on updating our social media and websites, trying to increase recruitment, make it seem, I guess, a more desirable job. Other than that, we're still at 50% vacancy. That's all I have. I'm not sure if Captain Rose wanted to make any comments.
The only thing I'll add, we're working with HR right now about changing our minimum qualifications. I think ours right now is, of course, it's a high school diploma or equivalent, and then you need 2 years of clerical experience. I think we looked at Maui's and we're kind of trying to mirror that more to, right now, if you don't have clerical work, you don't qualify, so change it to, or public contacts or radio, telephone switchboard. And then we're also looking at moving it from 2 years to 1 year of these minimum requirements to see if that'll get more people qualified and willing to apply. That's all I have.
Thank you, folks. Moving on to HPD.
Hi, this is Captain Kurihara. Fortunately, we're losing one more PCO. He is taking a voluntary demotion. Additionally, we had about 4 lined up. All 4 have not passed the final phases of selection, so we are back at 0 on that. So we're probably hovering at about 32-33% vacancy. We are looking at changing our testing procedure, so similar to Kauai, trying to revamp how we do things, how we recruit. That's all.
Thank you, Matt. Honolulu Fire.
Just wanted to remind everybody of National Dispatchers Week next week. Just be sure to thank all your dispatchers out there. But as far as manpower, we have 1 vacancy and 2 currently in training right now. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Oahu EMS.
Good morning. Presently, we are training one new employee, one new one, and a reliever in our dispatch center. We lost one dispatcher to resignation, so we're down about 5 or 6 right now as far as openings. I'm not sure. I wasn't on the last meeting, but I'm not sure if they mentioned anybody mentioned that the JTMC had a bed bug decontamination, and everybody in the center relocated to their backup centers. Our relocation went well, and that's it for now.
Thank you. Moving on to Maui PD and Molokai PD. David?
Thank you. On March 30th, we had a one-stop shop at our KA station, all-day affair, so people could come in, sign up for an application. If they pass the requirements, they go into testing sessions. Those that pass, we interview. On that day, that long day, we actually interviewed and offered 12 people. And from that, yeah, and from that, we've also, there was some type of glitch there where 5 people took the wrong test or were given the wrong test, and they were afforded the ability to do a retesting almost immediately during that next week. And we're currently scheduled to interview all of them today, and that passed. So it seems like a never ending right now of people coming in and out of our doors. Since that day that we did 12, I think we did another 8 more people in line, and then we have the 4 that's coming in today to do so far. So it looks good right now for us, but then, when we get them into the testing and the interviews, now that's when it really goes down to the line, right? If they pass all the background, and you want to have people that with the confidential information that you have responsibility of caring for the public, that we can trust them to do that, right? So it's looking good for us, but we didn't have anybody from Molokai to come and take a test, so we're still hoping for that. But they're talking about doing a one-stop job there, job fair there for Molokai. So hopefully it's getting better for us. And that's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. And how did you guys advertise the career fair, the job fair?
They did social media, radio announcements. We had people, they came in and did sound bites with some of our people. And, they were part of the solution. They had a very big part of the solution. And DPS also created some ads that they put out on the county website that included photos of our people and the work that they do. So it was a good thing to pull all of us together to try and get this accomplished.
Awesome. Fingers crossed that they make it through the rest of the process. Thank you, David. Okay, Hawaii Police Department.
Hi, good morning. This is Rob Fujitaki. For our recruitment process and strategies, we still have the continuous recruitment going on our county website. Much like Maui, we do also have it on our social media platforms on Instagram and Facebook for PCO1s. We did have a bunch of interviews that we conducted a couple weeks ago. Out of that, we did offer 2 of the applicants' positions, and both accepted, which is great. So we do have both starting on May 1st. We also have interviews coming up next week for 8 applicants, and hoping to start a class on June 3rd with that. So we're looking at running back-to-back classes, which would be a first for us, being that close, tied in together. But we're willing to do what it takes to get the people on board and get these people trained up. Right now, we're standing still at about 30% vacancy rate, which is 14 vacancies. But again, come May 1st, 2 hires on going from there. But yeah, that's all I got for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. And Hawaii Fire.
Good morning. We have a total of 14 on staff right now, which puts us at about 50%, although 5 of those are new hires that have been working for about 3 weeks. So they're in training. We also have 3 people that were hired last year that just got reallocated to official dispatcher status. And we are recruiting from we just pulled a list from our DHR. We have 31 names on that list. We're going to be holding a realistic job preview at the end of this month, hopefully to do interviews in May. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the updates. Okay, it's almost 10:30. Do we have Rebecca back?
Hey, good morning, Chair. If Rebecca's not back, her section is also mirrored in the board minutes, so she can update everyone there, or update everybody there. And Stella said that if she's not there during that time, she can give an update. Thank you.
Okay, sounds great. We'll move on then. Items for discussion, consideration, and action. Any additional items proposed by meeting attendees? Hearing none. Announcements, future virtual meeting dates, 9 a.m. Thursday, May 9th for our combined meeting. Future conference dates, NENA, June 28th through July 3rd in Kissimmee, Florida. APCO, August 4th to the 7th in Orlando. Any additional announcements from meeting attendees? If not, open forum, public comment on issues not on the board meeting agenda. Hearing none, looking for a motion to adjourn.
This is Tony. I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Tony. Can I get a second, please?
This is Liz. I second.
Thank you, Liz. All in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say aye.
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 Yeah, aye.
Any opposed? The meeting is adjourned at 10:28. Let's come back at 11:35. Thanks, folks. All right, we have 10:35 here. Get started. Better pull up the agenda. All right, Royce, you back?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Call to order this meeting of the Enhanced 911 Board. It's April 11th. Call to order. We have public notice.
Yes.
Public testimony taken on all agenda items as those items occur during the meeting. Royce, can you please conduct the roll call?
Yep. Starting off, Francis is still here. Stephen, Courtney is here. Franny, are you still here? Oh yeah, I see you.
I'm still here.
Thank you. Stacy Domingo.
Present.
Thank you. Eddie, are you still here?
I'm here.
Thank you. Robert Fujitake.
Here.
Thank you. Liz is still here. Vern, are you still here? Vern Hara. Jisuk is here. Stella is still here. Matt is here. Todd is here. Glenn left. Sean Kuratani.
Still here. Thanks, Royce.
Thank you. Patrick Letty. Thank you. Very nice of you. Alon, are you still here? Alon Leong.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Rebecca is back. Lauren, are you still here? Lauren Okumura.
Yes, I'm still here.
Thank you. Ariel Ramos.
Still here, thank you.
Thank you. Darren Rose.
Here.
Thank you. Devlin, are you still here?
I'm here.
Thank you. Tony Ramirez is here. Natasha Reese.
Still here.
Thank you. Jeff Reeve. Calvin Sung. Calvin, are you still here? Here. Corey's here. Lavina, are you still here?
Yep, still here.
Thank you. Kennison, are you here still?
Yes, thank you, Royce.
Thank you. Tony Velasco, are you still here?
Yes, still here, Royce. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, give me 1 second, guys.
And Vern Hara said here in the chat, so.
All right, Corey, we have a quorum for the board.
Okay, great. Thank you, Royce. If you could all take a quick moment to review and we can approve March's meeting minutes. So once you've taken a moment, we're looking for a motion to approve.
This is Rebecca. I'll make the motion to approve the March meeting minutes.
Thank you, Rebecca. Can we get a second?
This is Francis.
This is Liz. I'll second.
I think Francis beat you to it. We have a second. All in favor of approving March's meeting minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. March's meeting minutes are approved. Moving on to committee updates by committee chairs. Davelyn, any further updates from the communications committee?
None. Thank you.
Thank you, Davelyn. Sean, technical committee?
Yes, Chair, thank you. If Rebecca can give her update for the legislative portion, thank you. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Yep, sorry I had to jump away for a minute there. We're in the home stretch with our bills, so fingers crossed we're gonna make it. So there's 2.5 weeks left of the legislative session. Our bill made it through all of our final committee hearings. It was not amended, so we're lucky that we have a clean bill in the original form. It will hopefully move into conference. I don't know if Stella will know the answer to this. Technically, the bill is in the original form as it was introduced in. They just made technical non-substantive changes, and they changed the effective date. So Stella, does it even have to go into conference, or is it
Not
possible
unless,
that
yeah, I don't foresee it going into conference because the only thing that was changed was the effective date. So they changed it from the year 3000 back to the year 2024. So I'm thinking that it'll just go to the floor for the vote.
Great. So pending any unforeseen chaos. Last year there was like a whole bunch of things that held up a lot of bills, but hopefully we're going to be okay. So we can't celebrate too soon. So next month we'll give the full update. But it's been a roller coaster, and thanks everyone for joining us for this legislative roller coaster and everyone who submitted testimony. We appreciate it.
Great job, folks. Really appreciate all your support. And thanks for the update, Rebecca. Good stuff. All right, moving on to the Finance Committee. Any further updates, Eddie?
No further updates.
Okay. PSAP updates, starting with Kauai Police Department.
No further updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariel. HPD?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Honolulu Fire Department?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing to add.
Thanks, Sean. Oahu EMS?
No changes. Thank you.
Maui Molokai PD?
Nothing more to add. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Hawaii Police Department?
Nothing further. Thank you.
And Hawaii Fire Department?
Nothing further, thank you.
Excellent. Royce, can you please provide the Executive Director's report?
Alrighty. Let's see. So starting off, we did have the 3,000 budgeted for having an in-person board meeting. I know we kind of wanted to do one once a year. I had talks with Reed and Keola, and they're interested in doing it again. So I think I was shooting to try and maybe do it for the June meeting if everyone's willing. I'm going to try and reach out to all the Outer Island people first to try to get a head count, see how much people we can bring in from the Outer Islands first with that initial 3,000. Let's see. I don't know if you guys can see it. Can you guys see my camera? So this is kind of the room that we use now. I counted roughly we can probably fit 30 people in here. If you guys all don't mind sitting on the chairs against the wall. The board members can probably sit at the table, can probably fit all 13 people here. But I'll get a head count from everyone first. But yeah, if everyone's interested in doing it in June, if that's enough time for you guys to plan and make the trip, then we'll start off probably just doing it once a year. I don't know if you guys want to do it at the beginning or the end of the year. And then I think it'd be good. A lot of new board members, and I'm sure like a lot of people don't even know what we really look like, some of us, but yeah, so I'll send an email out probably shortly after this or next week, try to get a head count, and then we can go from there. Next up, strategic budget plan. So I did receive everyone's revisions. I was able to get the reserve up to about almost 150,000. One thing I did have to do was I did have to take away all the conference travel from all of the agencies, including myself. I did not touch any of the ABCO certifications or the OT for training, so you guys all still have that. What else? The ABCO certifications. I was talking to Davey. I think we initially had it at $399, so it didn't include the taxes. So I did include the taxes this time around, so it's $466. So at least the ABCO certifications will be fully covered for you guys. I will be working on doing the forecasts and the encumbrance pay down. So I sent out an email to all the PSAPs yesterday. So if you can get that back to me by next week, Friday, that'll be good. I want to get all the numbers put together and then have the finance committee take a look at it before the May meeting so we can have that ready for approval. Is there any questions? Alrighty. Next up is the topic that we discussed last week, the Department of Ocean Safety. I know Corey asked me to kind of check in on things to see if there is any like minutes or any history behind why DIT receives reimbursement. So kind of what I found, there's no real minutes or anything like that. I did speak to Dahlia about it, and from my understanding of it was DIT covers only the tariff positions for like the Viper example. And it was initially set up that way to kind of like streamline reimbursements, to kind of speed up reimbursements rather than sending reimbursements to each PSAPs. So that's how it initially was. And then when the PSAPs began to ask for additional seats, that's when Hawaiian Telecom was directly billing the PSAPs for those additional seats not covered under the tariff. And just to kind of like reiterate the tariff, it doesn't directly say that a secondary PSAP needs to operate 24/7, but a primary does. And it also states that a secondary must be able to receive calls from the primary. So that should imply that both should be 24 hours. I did talk to the NASNA director. She is not aware of any other secondary PSAP that doesn't operate 24/7. So that's just some information that I found out about that, but it's kind of difficult to find minutes so far or any kind of documentation from back then, because this is probably back around like 2006 to 2008. But I can keep searching. But does anyone have any questions or discussions on that?
So thanks, Royce, for looking into it. Sounds like we didn't get a super straightforward path to follow that Ocean Safety could easily break off and still receive reimbursements and everything. So I feel like we're kind of where we were last week still, or last month. Any questions, discussion? I'm not sure exactly how to proceed with this. I think the main thing we talked about last time was we really didn't want any unintended consequences of having a separate department of ocean safety related to the board reimbursements and things like that. And we talked about how there was already an advisory committee, and that's closed. Is that correct? That committee's already completed its work?
Yeah, but yeah, this is Stephen Courtney. Yeah, I believe it is. It has, and they made the recommendation to the mayor already.
And did we have a copy of that? I didn't read it. Is there like a formal document that shows their recommendations and everything?
Oh, that's a good question. I do not know if there. I do not know.
Does anybody on the meeting know if there was a document related to that advisory committee?
Hey, Corey, how's it going? This is Buck Giles, Ocean Safety. As far as I know, and I could be wrong, I think the advisory committee was a verbal recommendation. They met with the mayor, and I don't know if there was minutes for that or anything. That's about all I have for that.
And silly question, the recommendation was to create a separate department, I presume, or?
Yes, yeah, there's kind of two paths that are happening. There's the recommendation to the mayor to expedite that quickly, and then there's also the resolution introduced by Andrea for it to go to a vote to the public, which has been making its steps. So we'll see how it transpires, but so far so good. In terms of us being a call taking position and not a primary or a secondary PSAP, I guess we still are at a standstill in terms of finding out some more information on that.
Sounds like it. I think we're just mostly in uncharted waters.
Right. My question would be,
Corey, this is
go
Chief
ahead.
Mess. Yeah, I think we need. I can follow up with Dr. Ireland of our department. He's a department director, and he might have a little bit more information regarding any kind of minutes or anything to do with the advisory committee. I'll try and follow up on that and see where it's at.
Okay. That'd be helpful. It probably still won't answer this question. You know, this is a very specific question related to our board, which they probably did not consider. Okay. Anybody else have any other ideas how we can ensure no unintended consequences from a new Department of Ocean Safety, if that's how it goes here?
Corey, this is Eddie. So I had a brief discussion with Chief Okamura about the strategic budget plan for HESD. So my suggestion to him was to submit a strategic budget as is, the same way we've been doing it for years. And a second one needs to be drafted for ocean safety. If they become a department by themselves, they would need to submit a separate strategic budget plan. So that would be my suggestion, to have Kurt draft a proposed budget, what their budget would look like if they became a department on their own.
I like that idea. Yeah.
I have a question. This is Buck from Ocean Safety. Just for clarification, if we do become our own department, will we be required to become a secondary PSAP? Because I know in the past, their primary PSAPs, I believe a while ago, someone may remember that there was a point when we were becoming a call-taking position, or were we going to be a secondary PSAP? And it came down to, like, where the primary is going to answer police, fire, ambulance, ocean safety. And I think that was just thrown out because it's the primaries, secondaries are kind of solid, and we became a call taking position, which works out really well. But back again to my question, if we do become our own department, are we going to be required to become a secondary? In other words, I'm kind of like, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of angle.
Yeah.
And this is just me thinking, I'm not speaking for any of my chiefs or anything like that. Me being captain of communications here at JTMC.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. Just because you're your own department, why do you have to be a PSAP? Can you just remain a call taking position? I don't see. I'm not aware of any I wouldn't be, but I'm not aware of any legislation that would prevent that. It would seem pretty peculiar that there would be legislation around that. I don't know what kind of research we could do to make sure. And I think really, we support you guys and we want this to work. We mostly just want to make sure there's no unintended consequences since you get some money from us. But it's through EMS today. And it sounds like you'll need to get it directly from us in the future. We don't want to disrupt the things you're already doing. So I like Eddie's suggestion. You will need we'll need a separate line item in our strategic budget. So we can send you the budget we have now, and then presumably a lot of the EMS costs would come down in these two budgets. The one that had ocean safety would have less money for EMS, and some of that money would go into ocean safety. So you guys might have to work together to parse out what that is. But if we can get whose approval would we need, Stella, to this is our new strategic budget if this agency is created. The board obviously approves it for ourselves. Is there someone else we can run it by to make sure there's not going to be any gotchas related to this?
Royce can comment on this, but the only people I think would be maybe Mio Ling, Royce, and maybe ASO.
Yeah, I can try and discuss with them because that was kind of my question too. Is we're trying to finish the budget and approve it in May, but do I just go ahead and do we just go along with a budget with ocean safety still attached to EMS because that's how it's going to be until most likely not till next year, right? So half of the fiscal year, they're still going to be attached to EMS, but do we honor that budget when they separate for the other half of the fiscal year, or do we have to use that secondary budget that we're going to make? I guess that's my question too. But I don't know if that's a decision that the board will have to make, or do we just honor the current budget that was approved?
This is Francis. I think if I like the idea of putting another budget together for ocean safety, and if we approve the next year's fiscal budget, at least we have agreement that if they are going to separate and have their own budget recovery, then we would know what that is, right, for at least the next year.
Yeah,
either way. I think it's just having an idea, having that secondary, I think is a good idea. That as a backup.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll talk to them.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you could maybe just ask them, about this idea where we have a budget that we have now. Should we make a secondary budget? But it is complicated by the fact that it will probably be halfway through that budgetary year. And in the first half of that budgetary year, we need to pay EMS, and in the second half, we'd have to pay ocean safety. We don't know when that break is going to occur. So even making the budget might be tricky. So it might actually be an exercise for next year and not this year what actually happens.
Yeah.
But that's
Royce, Royce, do you see a problem mid-year of actually cutting a check to ocean safety versus EMS if there's no budget?
It depends what other kind of expenses that they're asking for, right? Because currently with Ocean Safety attached to EMS, we have a reserve of a little over 150,000, right? But if Ocean Safety is going to come out with another budget and they're going to be asking for more, right, than what they're currently asking, then that kind of shortens our reserve, right? So
yeah, okay.
Well, Royce, I got a question. If I'm understanding Ocean Safely correctly, they want to remain an answering point. Is that correct? If they want to remain, if they want to remain an answering point because of the configuration of the system, in other words, the calls are going to EMS and then EMS is extending the call, right? Is that to remain a answering point, they have to stay in that same configuration. So why wouldn't the answering point just be a subset of that, that PSAP's budget? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and they are listed as EMS/OS in our budget today.
Yeah, because from a technical standpoint, they're an answering point, which means they're answering already off of a system access point.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, to avoid the exercise in creating budgets and moving line items and things like that, why couldn't, if it's possible, couldn't we just leave them on there as an answering point and problem solved? I'm asking that question.
Yeah, I think that's what Buck was kind of asking as well, and that makes a lot of sense to me. It says Ocean Safety on here. The fact that their own department is maybe irrelevant here.
Yeah, because it's kind of it's the technical aspect of whether they're an answering point and how they take the calls, right? But then there's the budgeting aspect that I think was the other question, is that you can have a separate budget for them and know what their costs are, and that allows Royce to cut a check, us to reimburse Ocean Safety as a department. How we handle the calls, I guess, is something different in my mind.
Are they getting a bill now? Again, a reimbursement means they're receiving an invoice. Are they receiving an invoice?
Yeah, and that.
Yeah, we're receiving reimbursements already.
Okay.
Yeah, only for their Viper.
Yeah.
Ocean Safety is? Okay.
And does that check already say Ocean Safety on it, Roy?
No, it goes all of the Oahu PSAPs. It goes to the city and county of Honolulu. The check is written to the city.
So that's not going to change then.
Yeah, I think it really just boils down to, this is my opinion, but I think it just boils down to if the board is okay with everything just going as is, right? And if that's acceptable, because when I talked to the NASA director, she pretty much stated like there's no real like federal laws or definitions that define the secondary or primary. All of the states follow their own laws. So ours would be the tariff. So I guess we can really look at the tariff, and if there's nothing in there that says, I don't know who makes that determination. I believe it's just the board's decision, right? If they become a secondary or not. Or I don't know if that's Ocean Safety's intention to become a secondary, right? Or
it sounds like they'd prefer to keep it simple and remain an answering point.
Right.
Which seems to simplify everything. So, I mean, my hunch is that nothing needs to change. I think this is good discussion just to make sure, because they don't want to lose this access to these reimbursements, right? That's the whole point of this discussion. If we feel it's safe enough, maybe we just make a maybe we make a resolution or something and just say if the Department of Ocean Safety is voted on, they can still be reimbursed by the board as they are today. They'll remain an answering point. If that's in our authority to decide, maybe we can just vote on it. What do you guys think? To keep them as an answering point and agree to continue the same reimbursements at the same way it's happening today, to not change the system or the reimbursements just because they're becoming their own department.
Corey, this is Eddie. The only major added costs I see if they separate, and it would depend on the city's administration on what they're gonna do, is the secondary PSAP. So currently, Ocean Safety is embedded with EMS at Kopaka, but EMS is moving out of the Kopaka property soon. I don't know how many years, 1 year, 2 years. So they have to build a secondary center. And I don't know if Ocean Safety has to be separated from EMS, because Ocean Safety is under HGA as a union, and EMS is under UPW. And I don't know if Chief Titchen wants to have his own center so that he has more control over it versus EMS trying to override what they want to do. That's the only major added cost I see in the future if they get separated. But again, it's a city's administration and what they're going to do with the secondary call center.
Eddie, you bring up a really good point, because our move out of Kopaka will occur in late 2027, or maybe longer, depending on the construction of our new facility in Waipio. And so far, we really haven't factored in Ocean Safety as a backup center there. We've only designed it so far with the EMS in the center. So that is a important factor there.
So you guys are operating, assuming that Ocean Safety will be its own department by that time.
Yes, correct.
I guess, is Ocean Safety aware of that? And what's their plan?
I guess I can say becoming our own department has its building that needs to be done. You know, there's going to be added cost, but we kind of really don't have our own facilities at all. We're just kind of still in the broom closet. That's one of the reasons why we want to get our own department and do that. But yeah, that's definitely something we need to be thinking about, and that's for my chiefs. I'm sure are there on top of that.
So if they're in a different facility, is it possible for Ocean Safety to remain an answering point, or would they need to be an actual PSAP because it's physically in a different location? I guess I don't know the definition of an answering point versus a PSAP.
Well, the main answering point is in JTMC, which is right next to the EMS consoles. But again, the backup would be, again, a question. Where is their backup going to be if they separate?
If they become their own PSAP, you mean? Because we have to be very careful with our language here. I think they're separate from the department. That's different from them separating and switching from an answering point to a PSAP, right?
So I think what he's trying to say is that we have a secondary call taking position if the JTMC goes down. So when they move to their new facility and we become our own department, we have to figure out where our secondary call taking position is going to be. And of course, like EMS moving their position, those are going to be costs. So we would probably have costs too.
Got it. So I think, yeah,
If that makes
I
sense.
think Ocean Safety needs to bring us, like, answer questions about, you know, if I guess I'm stuck on the answering point versus the PSAP stuff, because PSAPs are supposed to operate 24/7. The secondary should be able to receive it from a primary, as Royce has said. So I guess we need to determine if you guys can remain an answering point or if you need to be a PSAP, because that's going to change this 24-hour requirement and get kind of complicated.
Right. Yeah, we currently don't operate 24 hours personnel in the field at night, but yeah, I guess that's something you know, Chief Logger and Kitchen can address. Hopefully they can be on the next technical meeting.
Yeah, it seems to me, I mean, I don't think it makes sense to completely change all of your operations due to some technical law requirement. To me, it makes sense that you remain an answering point, even if you're your own department. I don't know what would prevent that from being a viable solution, but you still have other things to, like your secondary call location, like you said, is still a pending issue you guys need to figure out, but it sounds like you have 3 or 4 years to do that.
Yeah. Well, even if we weren't, well, I guess we would be going with, if we didn't become our own department, we would probably be going with EMS. Yeah.
Right. Following them to YPO. Okay. Sorry, there's not a lot of clarity around this. I think Royce is going to check. What was that? Nia? I missed the name. Was it Nia Ling?
Yeah,
It's
that'd be
Mewling.
Mewling.
Mewling. Okay. About the budget stuff and how that needs to change, if at all. Who can is anyone know the technical difference between an answering point and a PSAP?
I think that the HRS defines it as public safety answering point is a public safety agency that receives incoming 911 calls and dispatches appropriate public safety agencies to respond to those calls. So if they remain a call taking, agency that takes calls and dispatches, then that should cover them under the disbursement, right? Under subsection 130-5, section A, every public safety answering point shall be eligible to seek disbursements from the fund. So it doesn't say primary or secondary, right? It doesn't really go down that deep.
And I'm sorry, I misspoke. I meant call taking position, because they're a call taking position now, right? They're not their own center. They're just like a position.
The difference in the primary, secondary answering point is the connection coming from. So a primary PSAP receives their primary connection directly from the telco. A secondary PSAP gets their connection from the primary PSAP. And then the answering point would be an answering point off of one of those PSAPs. Okay, so a secondary with an answering point would be legitimate in that type of configuration. So, and Alon's 100% correct with regards to a definition of a PSAP. So, I mean, everything is kind of set up for them to remain an answering point. I guess it's really the administrative or the financial connection, from that point forward. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. I think that's what we should try to pursue, to maintain them as an answering point, even if they're their own department. In which case we could continue to pay EMS/OS because they're an answering point after EMS, but I guess so could they remain an answering point? So after EMS moves from Coapaca to Waipio, would they have to change because they don't have a secondary location? How does that work? Are they can they be an answering point from a different physical location?
Well, where would the Coapaca station, where is that secondary PSAP moving to?
Waipio, I think they said.
Okay, Waipio, where's that one moving to? Could they connect to the next location where they're moving to? Or can they I mean, the functionality would be is who's going to dispatch or who's requesting ocean safety to respond to an emergency? Would that call be coming from the fire department or from EMS still? And that's where that connection would have to go to.
Yeah, we currently connect from fire and EMS. I believe any secondary PSAP can.
Yeah, they're all connected.
Depending on the call, of course.
Right.
Okay, so you guys can be an answering point for any of these PSAPs. So it sounds like that could remain the same, even if the locations change, and because we're doing that today. So, I mean, I'm of the opinion that not much is going to change. Nothing's going to change. They're going to be their own department. They're still listed in our budget as EMS/OS. Any other suggestions for next steps on this one?
Hey, Corey, this is Royce. Corey, can you hear me?
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead, Terry.
So I guess I'll just ask about making that secondary budget, because I do think it's going to be tricky to have two separate budgets, because technically if they would be a department, it's effective January 1st, 2025, right?
Yep.
And they currently only get reimbursed pretty much just for their Viper, I believe, and some conference travel. So it's not much, but I think I should have a talk with Ocean Safety. If they do end up building a new center, what kind of cost that they do see in the future. And then maybe we put that on the 2026 budget, right? Because it's kind of closer. So.
Right. Yeah, and it's not like their center won't be ready anyways.
Yeah.
If it's not already in the plan. Yeah, when you talk to them, ask them about that. And I tend to think you can't create a budget for a department that doesn't exist yet. So how do we handle the chicken and egg problem with the budget? I think is a good start. Now we can go from
I don't
there.
think anything would even hit next year's budget, right? Because I mean, everything's still in the planning phases, right? So, I guess it'll be good to know in advance, though, of what they're kind of expecting or wanting to do, like if they were planning to expand or make different or whatever, right? So,
okay. Yeah, ask them how they think we should proceed with the budget piece, and I think we should try to keep as much the same as we can. Try to keep them as an answering position, and not their own PSAP. But okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion on this one?
This is Stephen Courtney with City and County of Honolulu. I guess what I can do is, since being DIT, we do have computer support representatives that are embedded in HESD, and so I could find out a little bit more about how ocean safety is going to be separated out of there. So that's at least on the because I know we do provide, again, we have CSRs that provide them IT support. So I can get some more information.
Thank you, Stephen. That'd be great. See
Hey
how
guys,
others report.
This is Buck again. I just want to thank you guys for all your help. This is good discussion for us.
Yeah, and Buck, thanks. And sorry, it's seems overly bureaucratic and complicated here. It's just uncharted waters, basically. We just don't want any unintended
Oh
consequences.
yeah, understandable. Yeah, it's all good. Learning
Roger
experience
that.
for me as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Buck. Okay, moving on. Royce, the Honda surcharge fees, did you have a quick update on that one too?
Yeah, I guess everyone, just to make everybody aware of it. Give me 1 second. I guess I'll just put this on the screen. This is the email I got directly from the person I was talking to about remitting surcharges on behalf of Honda. So initially, when me and Corey looked it up, we thought it was running off of this whole e-call system. But she did respond back. Sorry. So she did respond back, and it's pretty much called automatic collision notification. So what she was saying is there is a wireless number embedded into the car, and that the car company is paying wireless service for additional lines. So they did remit surcharges last month for January and February. So I believe the first month was about like 256 connections. And then for the following month, they went up to like 2,500. So it is something I'm probably going to monitor to see how much it does go up each month. But yeah, I guess it's something to look out for. I kind of talked to Francis about it. I don't think the number is going to show up any differently than what it is now. It's just going to be like a regular wireless number. So yeah, that's all. If anyone else has any questions.
Thanks, Royce, for tracking that down and getting clarification. Makes sense if it's a separate number that they need to pay 911. It's interesting that the carrier is not collecting it as they would for any other subscriber, but Honda and some carrier made some kind of weird deal and they told Honda to pay the 911 and Honda's paying it. So we'll take their money because they're supposed, so it's highly unusual, but it does all make sense.
Hey, Corey,
All right.
I think that's because they're looking at this as a prepaid service, Yep. And Hawaii doesn't have a prepaid service collection mechanism. So that's what's going to be the problem in the future.
Yeah, right. Good point. Thanks, Tony. So at least they're paying their way. So good on you, Honda. Good job. All right. Anything else, Royce?
Nope, that's all. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. All right. Moving on. Items for discussion, consideration, and action. Hawaii Police Department requesting $275 for pre-conference course for NENA conference, June 28th to July 3rd in Florida. I believe I need a motion to approve this as discussed in the joint meeting. Can we get a motion to approve the $275 pre-conference course?
Yeah, this is Stephen Courtney.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Okay, yeah, I make the motion to for the $275 for the pre-conference course.
Thank you, Stephen. Can we get a second?
This is Francis. I'll second.
Thank you, Francis. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. The $275 is approved. Any additional items proposed by meeting attendees? If not, moving on to announcements, future meeting dates. Thursday, May 9th, our combined meeting. Future conference dates, NENA June 28th to July 3rd in Florida, and APCO August 4th to 7th, also in Florida. Any additional announcements from meeting attendees? Hearing none, open forum. Any public comment on issues not on our agenda today? If not, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Yes, Stephen Courtney, I make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Stephen. Can I get a second?
This is Ji Suk. I make the second to adjourn.
Thank you, G.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your time and attention, and we will see you next month.
Thank
Thanks,
you.